What's up, everybody? My name is Los, and today, welcome to another episode of Influence Effect. Today, we're talking with none other than Dr. Ryan Lowery, author of the Ketogenic Bible and co-founder of Ketogenic.com. What's up, man?
Hey, man. I'm honored to be on, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for talking with us and just kind of having a good time. So today we're going to be talking about keto. We're going to be talking about growing a platform with and without your name, and kind of like the state of keto, the state of influencer marketing for health and brands like that. And so we're just gonna shoot the shit and see what happens. We just toured your facility, which is way better than I thought. just real talk. I thought it was like a nice place. I'm sure you had like cool things, but like, wow. Like, it's just next level. If you guys ever get a chance to come to Tampa, you gotta hit Ryan up. It's the most amazing facility I've seen, and I've been to some pretty cool places. How'd you get started?
You know, honestly, so Jacob and I, my business partner, our backgrounds were academics. So we were basically involved a lot in researching, educating, teaching, and that's always been a passion of ours. But we very quickly realized that in the academic setting, there's 4 walls and a ceiling, and it doesn't like when you press against it, especially when you're talking like keto, right? So like a lot of people in the academic world don't like it or kind of are against it, and we wanted to educate the masses. And so we said, you know what, in order for us to effectively do that, we need to branch out and create our own institute. And so that's why we created ASPI and basically brought together really the essence of bridging the gap between science and practical application. How do we bring those two together and then educate so someone can go out and effectively apply it themselves?
That's amazing. So you went from kind of being in the academia place to kind of really getting into the entrepreneur space, right? And then you kind of branched out and started creating content and really, for lack of a better word, almost becoming an influencer, right? Like, you're speaking everywhere, like you're doing a lot of podcasts, you're doing a lot of stuff. How's that been?
It's been amazing, man, and it's truly an honor. I would never have thought like that would be the case back when I was coming up, but it's just so amazing to be able to help so many people. That's always been our mission very early on, and that's always been something I wanted to do. Like, going in, I was like, I want to become a doctor of physical therapy to help people, and very quickly I changed that to become a PhD to educate people, because ultimately you can help them by allowing them to learn new tips and tools and things to improve their quality of life and their health. And so it's just been an absolute blessing and amazing to be able to work with people, speak with people, and just have like interaction with them on social media. Has just absolutely changed the game. So it's amazing to be able to do.
Now, from all that, kind of helping with sports performance and all the different things that you guys do over here, how did that transition into you buying and or working into Ketogenic.com?
Yeah, so we created ASPI, but even before we created ASPI, I've always had a passion for keto. Okay. And so I've been looking and researching keto for the last 6 or 7 years. And at that time, I was like, you know what? There's no platform where people can come together and bring together the top minds in relation to this topic. And I was like, I feel like this is gonna grow, because the research I was seeing and the research that we were doing, I was like, this is gonna become something very big. And I saw what bodybuilding.com was doing in the fitness space, and I was like, you know, this is an opportunity to bring together and kind of protect the conversation of bringing in these people, educating them, providing recipes, providing resources, all in one space so people know where to go. And that's ultimately what we wanted to do, is rather than people get confused, because sometimes people get paralysis by analysis, and it's like, well, this person said this person said this. It's like, well, where's a hub where it's kind of curated and curated content? How do we bring that together?
So let's talk a little bit about keto. I have a show, it's called Keto Thoughts. I talk a lot about keto. I am not a doctor, but you are. So we can kind of answer some questions that I get hit up a lot. One of them, I guess I'll start with this one. I get a lot of what I call like the keto police, right? We have like this variation of people. So there's extremely strict people in keto, and then there's people that are like, can I have this? Can I have that? My whole thing is, listen, at the end of the day, I tell people, I try to eat grass-fed, grass-finished, wild-caught. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes life gets in the way. I'm in a trip. I do whatever. Sometimes I have a bang. Most of the times I drink water and Zevia, and most of the times I'm pretty good. But overall, as it's like works for life, I live a life, right? And it's like life, I guess, like lifestyle keto, I guess is what I call it. Not super strict. What do you think of that? Where do you stand with all these things? Because my personal mission is to try to get people to have success consistently over living a specific way that is for sure going to get them to break that pattern and go fall back into a pattern that doesn't work.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I talk about it, and it stinks because at this point, a lot of people use the term diet, and it has a negative connotation. So that's why I always talk to people about living a ketogenic lifestyle. Same. And so it's about instituting it with a lifestyle. Like, sure, one of the guys in our lab got married last weekend. Like, did I have cake at the wedding? Yeah, absolutely. But like, I had done intermittent fasting, and I was probably back into ketosis the next morning. You know, like, don't stress it. You stressing out about it is gonna have more of a glucose and insulin response than like actually having something once in a while. But it's understanding and keeping things in context, right? It's you truly want people to live this as a lifestyle and make a change. When you tell someone you have to eat this, and this at this time, that's the only thing you can have, cut everything else out, then it's like, cool, I can do that for 2 weeks, but then week 3 comes around. That's a diet. Yeah, that's a diet. And then that's when it becomes unsustainable. You break, and then you get worse than you were before you even started. So do you stay, overall, if you're not going to an event or whatever, do you ever break keto on purpose, just to kind of like cycle on and off, or do you stay keto for the majority of the time? Like, how do you do it? Yeah, I stay for a majority of the time. A lot of people talk about like carb ups, like they'll do like strategic carb ups. I do like protein ups. So it's weird because I like, coming from like the fitness world, like I actually enjoy things that are made with protein. Like I enjoy Greek yogurt with some whey in it. And so like, it's so good. And so like those will be my protein up days. So once a week, I'll have a day where I might have Greek yogurt and whey, or I might make some of my, they're still lower calorie, but just higher protein desserts or treats that I've made back when I was like trying to gain as much muscle as humanly possible. But I have a protein up, not like, I don't go and have like a carb blowout and then feel like trash for the next 3 days. I prefer protein ups myself. Yeah. Do you find that is better overall? And do you ever do that and like worry about getting into any kind of like not good state of ketosis, or do you do it just kind of living your life? It really doesn't matter that big of a deal. Like, what's your thought process on all of that? Yeah, for me, it's kind of allowed me to continue to adapt. Because one of the things I've noticed is that like if you stay strict keto and especially if you're doing like 1 meal a day, over time and you're training really hard, like when I'm at my peak of when I'm not traveling and I'm actually here training, it's important for me to get more protein in during those times. And so I found for me, it's liberating from a mental standpoint, but it's also liberating as far as me continuously allowing to make gains. And so it's very difficult for your process to convert excess protein over into glucose. So that's why I prefer protein ups rather than carb ups. But for me, it's just kind of like, it's a reset for me on the weekend. I have a good training day, I have more protein, and it's kind of like a reset and allows me to get my body to continue to adapt. This is a great segue for me to now be able to make protein pancakes on the weekends. It's my favorite thing, man. Dude, they're so good. And I make them with cottage cheese. I don't know if you ever haven't done that. I go cottage cheese, protein, and a few eggs. And then you blend it. They're kind of thick. They don't look great. They're not the best looking thing in the world, but they're ridiculous. Like, they taste amazing, great protein. When you do the protein ups, do you go lower fat? I bump fat down. Like, I don't go low fat. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yep. Yeah. I thought the same thing because I kind of do the same thing. So, random question, but I'm sure everyone wants to know. I am actually going through this phase. I tried for the past like month. I've been trying to bulk, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start eating carbs. And I did it for, I don't know, like a week. I did it for like a week, and I hated it. I was just like, I'm just so not like, I feel it. I feel different, you know what I mean? If you are, I believe that you totally can actually gain weight, good weight, and it's probably leaner, better weight if you do it doing keto. Do you have suggestions for me and / anyone else that's kind of going through that right now? So your goal is to gain weight or gain just I would love to gain muscle.
right?
Okay.
Like I don't want to gain
weight. But you want to lose fat as well.
I'm really just good on, I can lose fat fast, and I'm just at maintenance. Like, if anything, I was trying to gain, but I'd like to gain. In a perfect world right now, I want to gain 10 pounds.
So a lot of times what happens with people who are on a ketogenic diet is they'll do intermittent fasting, or sometimes they'll even do like 1 meal a day. If your goal is to gain, I would increase the meal frequency. So that's one of the ways to do it. You're triggering protein synthesis more frequently throughout the entire day. Being in a state of ketosis helps that no matter what. Like you're in a better net state being in ketosis than not as far as protein balance. But if your goal is truly to try and put on size and put on quality mass, increasing that meal frequency. So one of the things I do is, like, when I'm trying to cut down, I'll do like intermittent fasting Monday through Friday, and then I might have like 3 meals a day one time during the week. But if I'm trying to put on size, maybe 3 times a week, I'll have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then I'll intermittent fast on the other 2 days. And it's tough because, like, for me, I'm like forcing it in, but those are my hardest training sessions. It's when I'm getting it in.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Cognitively, I've just seen just massive changes, right? And like, not only do this show talks a lot with people in the keto space, but we deal a lot with entrepreneurs, influencers, people kind of like working. How has keto or even fasting just worked for you? And like, what do you suggest that as like kind of like a staple? I advocate it as much as I humanly can. Like, it's everyone in our office either fast for 16 at least, or does keto, right? And like, it's a pretty high performing office, right?
Of course, absolutely. You guys are crushing it. And one of the things that you're seeing is not only with keto, but you're seeing these guys in Silicon Valley that like, they're like, yeah, they're fasting. Granted, they're going to like Burger King, McDonald's, and like afterwards, but the reason they're fasting is because of the cognitive benefit. And that cognitive benefit is because they're getting an elevation in ketones, which are fueling the brain. And so, yes, I'm a huge fan of intermittent fasting. For me, it's been an absolute game changer. Traveling, speaking, doing all these, when I need to like get down and write something, or I'm recording videos, like I need to fast because I need to be at my A game cognitively. Like even on the weekends when I have breakfast, like I'm like lethargic after, even if it's a keto meal, I'm like, I don't feel as good cognitively. So I think it's a staple. The only thing I caution people is, like, especially females, a lot of times people will take it to the extreme, and like, it's like, cool, well, let's push this to like 24, 30, 48, 60 hours. And it's like, like, if your goal is to gain muscle or maintain that muscle mass, you just need to be careful with it. And the one thing I worry is, like, females tend to take it to the extreme because they're trying to lose weight, and it's important, and there's a lot of benefits, but then they start seeing hair loss and all these different things. So they just need to keep it in context. Like a 12 to 16 hour fast is perfect, but no need to push it to 72 hours every single week and like having these crazy like yo-yos.
Yeah, my wife fasts 4 to 5 times a week, 12 hours.
It's perfect.
And then breaks her fast with a little bit of fruit. She doesn't do keto or anything like that. And, you know, she's in pretty decent shape. Always cognitively, she's active and all those kinds of things. Yeah, man, I think just doing keto, and I think that's the biggest thing in fasting as well. Like you said, even if I eat celery or whatever, if I just start to chew, I'm like, huh, well, I guess today's gone. You know, like you just feel it. That's the thing that scares me from like having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm like, ooh, I can't do that. You know, I'd rather have like almost like a back-to-back meal at night, just because like I gotta, till noon at least, I gotta like perform, you know what I mean? So I know that you work with a lot of very, very high performers. I don't know if we can like name them or whatever, but like people like Tony Robbins, the millions and millions of athletes, not millions, but hundreds of athletes. What are some of the regimens that you put them through for extreme performance?
Yeah, a lot of them, there's commonalities amongst all of them, right? And ultimately it's goal dependent. So we have some athletes that come in that need to put on a ton of mass. They need to gain weight. Like sometimes we won't use a ketogenic approach for those guys. Like they will eat what their metabolism's burning so fast. We just need to put fuel inside of them to try and put on mass, so that way they can go perform on Sundays. Things like that, but it's all individualized. A common theme with all of them is they're eating whole foods as a majority of their diet, meaning that like they're getting good, high quality, in most cases grass-fed, and like some of these things. They do some type of fasting. which is important. They're active, they're physically active, meaning that not only are they just like active, they're resistance training, which I think is an essential piece to the entire thing, but all of them, it's very different and context dependent upon what their goal is. What's their outcome? Are they trying to just lose weight, prevent themselves from sarcopenia or age-related muscle loss, or are they trying to put on a ton of mass and be able to perform so we can watch them on TV one day?
Yeah. So we've talked about entrepreneurs, we've talked a little bit about super high performers. Let's take it back to like my mom, right? Because we have a lot of people that watch that are my mom's age, my mom's demo. What do you suggest for them? Because, you know, one of the big things we've seen is just a lot of confusion, and a lot of confusion in the most simplest of things. So if you were to explain to my mom or to someone's mom like that the keto diet or how to live in a balanced way, what would you say?
Well, this is great because I've actually had to do this for my own mom as well. So my mom actually has Crohn's. So one of the things that I said, you know what? You're gonna be my guinea pig. I love you to death, but I want to try something on you. And it really allowed me to try and figure out, okay, there's all this science and complexity, but how do I bring it down to simple terms so my mom can understand it, or my aunt, or my grandpa, whoever. One of the things that she had already started doing was, a lot of times words trigger thoughts, and those thoughts trigger certain emotions. So the concept of fasting for some people like turns them off. They're like, I'm gonna waste away. What are you thinking? Like, there's no way I can give up breakfast. So I said, oh, you know what? We're not gonna do intermittent fasting. We're gonna do intermittent eating. And she's like, okay, I'm interested. And I'm like, okay, all right, now we got somewhere. So it's the same concept, but I just switched the terminology. It's like, cool, let's use intermittent eating. You're gonna eat between these time periods. And she's like, I could do that. I'm like, you're fasting. Like, no, she just thought it was intermittent eating. And so I thought that was a staple for them, is like condense the time period in which you're eating. Unfortunately, most people today have access to food all the time. So it's like little snack here, little snack here, little snack. Those things add up. So that was a staple for her. The other thing, I was like, you know what? Let's lower your carbohydrate. Don't even mention keto, but let's lower your carbohydrate intake and find swaps. She's Italian, so she loves like cooking pasta and meatballs. I'm like, great, let's cook the meatballs, but like, let's use a different type of, rather than use like regular spaghetti, let's use an alternative. And we use an alternative, and she's like, okay, like I can eat this. And so like that was the first step. And then the real home run for me when I was working with her was, you know what? How do we incorporate exercise? And so one of the things was like, she was walking a little bit each day, and I don't say that everyone has to do this, but I actually ended up going out and I rescued a dog. And so I was like, you know what, now you got a grandson and he needs to walk. so now she takes walks with him, like, and she's more active now, and now that's encouraged her to go on walks even when she doesn't have them. So it's just, that's the ultimate home run, is like a little bit of exercise. Sometimes we get intimidated by the resistance training and the equipment. I promise you, like a 10 to 15 minute walk after each one of your meals is an absolute game changer. It'll lower your glucose, lower your insulin levels. And if you don't have time for 10 to 15 minute walks after your meals, like, you got to figure out priorities in life. Because I don't know anyone. We work with some of the busiest people in the world. Everyone has 10 to 15 minutes to take a walk.
Yeah. So let's talk about Ketogenic. I know that you guys are launching a few things, and the website's really growing. The Instagram is growing tremendously. You're growing as one of the faces of it. What are your plans with Ketogenic? Where do you see keto going? And as far as like a lifestyle, how do you see keto working with, you know, nowadays we have something different, which is we have influencers talking about keto and growing, and like the whole influencer space is really taking a huge kind of like chunk of it is becoming keto and stuff like that. Where do you see the whole thing moving?
You know what, honestly, I see this conversation as something it's not going to stop anytime soon.
It's not a fad.
It's not a fad at all. And one of the things that I look at is like what's happened in the past. I think it's good to learn from like history, but you look at what happens with Atkins. And the reason Atkins blew up, because people were seeing a tremendous amount of success, but the reason it fell off was because there were products that were introduced and they weren't done well. There wasn't a lot of education like this being put out about it. Like, people were just like, cool, I'm gonna trust this process, I'm gonna eat it, and the fat will melt off my body. They didn't really understand what they were doing. Whereas now you have all these influencers who are putting out books, they're talking about it, they're putting out programs, and they're allowing people to live the lifestyle, which is what we were talking about. And so ultimately with ketogenic.com, we want to bring together all of those influencers and allow people a space to really protect the conversation, because the only thing that will drag down the ketogenic lifestyle is the people internally. Like externally, no one, I think it's built strong enough now that it won't be defeated. But like internally, internal conflict will destroy it. When we have people that are like hardcore, like you only need to eat meat, or you have people that are like you only need to eat plants, it's like, well, can we coexist? Like I think there's benefits, there's pros and cons to potentially each. Like, can we coexist? So how do we bring people together and foster that conversation, but ultimately realize there's millions and millions of people out there who effectively can be helped by this lifestyle? How do we educate them? And that's what we're doing.
That's amazing. I love Ketogenic. I love what you guys are doing. This facility is probably the biggest thing I love. Before we go, what are some new things that you've started to see, just with so much research that you guys have and so many new things that you guys are testing? What are some of the new things that you might be able to talk about that are coming up, or that you've seen have success by doing keto right now?
You know, one of the things that we're looking into is we're starting to explore a little bit more in the supplementation route, is what kind of benefits, especially from a cognitive aspect. I think we're starting to do some research right now with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury, looking at not only a ketogenic diet, but a ketogenic diet plus supplementation with like exogenous ketones. A lot of what we think happens cognitively in all of those situations is the brain starving for a fuel source. And it's basically, people are referring to Alzheimer's right now as type 3 diabetes. Their brain can't take up and effectively utilize glucose. What happens when you provide it with an alternative source of fuel? So that's really what our lab's studying right now. Some of the results we're seeing are absolutely profound, and I'm like, we're onto something here. And that excites me, because there's so many, it's such a terrible disease and such terrible conditions that you don't want anyone that you know, love, or care about have to go through that. And you're like, yeah, what if it was as simple as having an alternative fuel source? That's not going to cure it or do anything, but at least what if it provides them with a whole nother sense, a whole nother 2, 3, 4 years of quality time with someone? Like, what's that worth?
Yeah.
And so that's really, really exciting.
So you believe in exogenous ketones, obviously. There's a lot of mixed reviews right now coming out with exogenous ketones and things like that. Have you ever tested them on yourself for, like, let's just say fasting, just ketones for like extra performance and work?
Yeah, so I supplement with exogenous ketones every day prior to my workouts. Like that's my pre-workout.
That's your pre-workout.
Is I'll use exogenous ketones as a pre-workout. But one of the other benefits, kind of like what you were pointing to, that I think exogenous ketones has a real play, not only in some of those neurological condition space, but when you're talking about cognitive performance in general. Like our lives depend on that, of being at maximal peak cognitive performance every day. And so one of the things is, we know there's benefits to fasting, but some people have trouble fasting. Like just drinking water all day can be challenging. Well, I think ketones can help extend that period. You're providing something that's not negating the benefits of fasting, but providing a fuel source that may now, instead of you being like, I gotta eat at 11:30, now that pushes that to 1:30 or 2. That's hours of productivity that you may not have otherwise have gotten.
Yeah. Would you say that breaks your fast? Or would you say that that does not break your fast? Because I know I'm gonna get this.
Yeah, so people ask this all the time. I think there's water fasting and I think there's fat fasting. There's benefits, and there's studies that have shown when you're talking about insulin, glucose, all these hormones, it's driven by the carbohydrates, not just the lack of food or fuel. So if that's the goal, like if you're trying to extend that time period of fasting, having like straight fats, nothing that's like a mixed meal or anything, having straight fats or ketones themselves technically would allow that. Are there different benefits to water only fasting? Certainly, there's some benefits, but the way I look at it is sustainability. If I'm allowing someone and they're going, hey, I'm gonna fast till noon, and then they have, say, coffee with MCTs or coconut oil, or they have ketones, and then that allows them to not eat until dinner time, I'd much rather that than them go, all right, well, I'm gonna have a meal, and then I'm gonna have another meal and a snack, and then dinner.
Right.
That prolongs that fasting period.
Would fasting water fasting more so would assist on like autophagy, cellular reparation, things like that. The other one, let's just say, would be fat fasting, is more to extend your fast, to help cognitively, to help, I would say, on performance if you're at work or something like that.
Certainly. It's more sustainable.
Right.
And one of the things that people always talk about, autophagy, and so like autophagy is like the cleaning of your cells. Like it's kind of like they're going in, they're cleaning up all the dead ones and repairing them. Like that's in essence what autophagy is. One of the best ways to do that is some sort of intermittent fasting, but also just exercise. Exercise is the #1 way you can increase autophagy. So like high intensity interval training, doing sprints, working out. Like you want to increase autophagy, work out and get good sleep. That'll do it as well.
All right, so with fasting, are you more of a 1 day for autophagy kind of guy, or are you 16, 18 hours consistent with fasting?
I like to do like 5 days a week. I like to incorporate in some intermittent fasting, but at least twice a year, I'll do like an extended fast where I might go like 48 hours, and that's kind of like to reset things and go by that way. One of the things I'm more interested in putting on lean mass. That's ultimately my goal. Is like right now I'm actually at like more of a maintenance phase of like, cool, I don't want to like put on so much more. I'm not so much worried about losing fat. Like I'm good where I'm at. Just health, longevity. So that's why I like the intermittent fasting. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to your goals.
Right.
Ultimately, where are you at in your life cycle? What's your goal? But for autophagy in general, intermittent fasting is going to be great. Exercise is going to be great. Low carbohydrate diets or lifestyles are going to be great. Like those are in essence probably the best things you can ever do. And getting good sleep. Getting good sleep, which is probably the one area I would say if I need to focus on something much better. It's so easy to put off, but I know you're probably the same way. It's like,
I try. I think I do a decent job, and I do feel my body different. I'm a 6 to 7 hour guy.
That's good.
8 hours, like I actually feel more tired, if that even makes sense. Like I get like, if I get extra sleep, I'm just like, I don't want to. I go to the gym at 5.
Okay.
Right, so like I wake up super early, so I go to bed pretty early, right?
Yeah.
Like I try to go to bed at 10, wake up at 5.
Strong.
We're at the gym at 5:30. And if I sleep in a little extra, I'm more tired than if I actually don't get enough sleep. I don't know.
Have you tracked your sleep, like the quality?
With like an Oura ring or something like that? No.
Yeah, so I've recently started tracking it, and it's made like it's really interesting to look at some of the data, like if I have a glass of wine, or if I eat something super late, or depending upon like if I wear blue light blocking glasses, or how my room's set up, if I'm in a hotel room versus at home. Like it's really interesting to track the patterns. I'm like, dang, all right, I gotta be better tonight. And I can tell my body feels it, especially I just got back from a trip, and like sleeping on planes, it's brutal. I was looking at it, I'm like, 2 hours. I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
It's brutal, but it's interesting to
I've noticed that when I travel, if I go to specifically a hotel, because I can black it all out, I'm out. Best sleep I can get.
You know what? I'm the same exact way. And I looked at that and I was like my deep sleep, my like REM, it's on point when I'm in hotel rooms. Also, I think a lot of it is because like I keep my hotel room like ice cold. Whereas like at home, I don't like keep it at like 60 at a hotel room.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm like as low as possible. Take this thing. So
yeah.
I'm like, that's in part too. Like you're cold, it's blacked out, it's comfortable. I'm like, dang, hotels.
Yeah, it's because like with my wife likes to watch TV, and like I know, I'm like, no, this is all dark. I'm gonna go to sleep faster. It's gonna be better for me. And I try to explain it to her, and she's like, no, that's not.
I want to watch TV.
When I was young, I used to sleep with the TV on, so it's the same thing. We just put a sleeper, and I'm like, so I gotta sleep with like a mask on and gotta do this whole thing. And so I know that when I go to a hotel, I'm almost excited because I'm like, oh dude, I'm going to bed at like 9:30. Yeah. I'm blacking this thing out, and it's gonna be like 60 degrees.
It's the best.
And you pass like right out. So what else have you noticed in tracking your sleep that like kind of helps you?
Yeah, if I eat super late, I notice that it takes me a longer time to fall asleep. Like even though I'm in bed, the latency to fall asleep is a lot longer. That's one of the challenges. The other thing I notice is that if I don't block out blue light, like I have these weird glasses that block out blue light. Yeah, the glasses that block out blue light, or like my curtains, I have blackout curtains. Like I notice that if I don't do that, like some nights I'll forget, the quality of my sleep's impaired. Like I don't get as much deep sleep. when I'm like, dang, like they make that much of a difference. But it's because I have my phone out, I'm working late, I'm on my computer watching TV with my dog or whatever. It's like that stuff adds up over time, and you don't realize that it's impacting you at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when you're like, that should be your best time to sleep.
Yeah, I used to wear the blue blockers at the office, and now I have a pair at home because I'm always on my phone. Like, my phone is my computer to a degree, right? And so I'm always working on it. And now that I have the blue lights, again, my wife makes fun of me, but I know that it actually works for me. You know? So before we go, just a few rapid fire questions on keto. What is your go-to keto meal?
Cobb salad, for sure.
Cobb salad?
Yeah.
What is your go-to keto drink?
Ooh, this one's tough. Either Vitamin Water Zero or the Zevia is what I'll have a lot.
Oh, favorite Zevia flavor?
Oh, it's like the lemon. It's the
lemon sparkling one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's light. It's light.
I like to go cherry cola.
I haven't had that in a long time.
It's really good. I got my daughters on Zevia, which was an exciting moment for me because they never drink... I don't let them drink soda, but now they're all into Zevia, and they tried soda one day. I wasn't there. They went with their grandma, and they had it, and I was like, oh, it's gross. It's like super sweet. And I was like, oh.
How amazing is that, though? That, like, but that it's actually an interesting point to bring up. Is like, we were like growing up. I was in this culture where like having a Coke or soda was just like a norm. It was at picnics and events, and then like, but you see like your kids growing up, and it's like, that's amazing where they try it and they're like, oh, this is too much. And like, that's the point that we need to get into. It's crazy how ingrained like sweetness and tons of sugar are in our society, but it's great that
it's
like
hard too, because like they go to school and they see all these other things, and you try to be a certain way, right? Like they just got cereal, and I'm not against it. I'm not like crazy about it, but I don't like it for sure, right? And I'm like, I don't want you to do this, whatever. But they themselves are starting to be like, oh, I'm good with this. Can I just have blueberries or whatever? You know, like the only thing that they do eat that I can't do too much about is like chicken nuggets. But you know, you got to go. You got to take your wins where you can take your wins.
It's better. It's better than what I used to do.
We make a ton of different little things at home that are healthy and good, and you know, that's the biggest thing. It's just little steps, you know, like if you can take an extra step and an extra step at the end of the day, you know, like they're pretty solid, and they know now, like I have convinced them or trained them to a degree, like that when they have a treat, it's a treat. It's not an everyday thing. It's not all the time. You know, you're supposed to have something and you can indulge. We can do it together. Sometimes, like, you know, I wrote a program that was kind of a variation of that, because on the weekends, I wanted to have pancakes with them, you know. So the majority of the program is basically overall for normal people to do fasting, whole foods, very specific, kind of like an elimination thing at the beginning, and then start introducing like a cheat meal a weekend, or maybe 2, but like that's your max and stuff like that. So it's an easy way for people to kind of get started and stuff. Wow, so man. Ryan, if people want to get in touch with you, holler, check out any of the content, what are the best places to take them?
If you look on Facebook, there's Dr. Ryan Lowery on Facebook. I'm active on Instagram. It's at Ryan P. Lowery on Instagram. And then some of the content we have is at Ketogenic.com on Instagram, the Ketogenic.com website. And then we do a little bit on Facebook as well with Ketogenic.com as well.
Awesome, man. Well, it was amazing. I really appreciate you having us here, and I hope to talk about it a lot more now consistently, because we're so close.
Right here, man. You got to come down. I appreciate you guys coming down.
That is it for us, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a message, leave a review. Let people know in the community what questions you have, what you're thinking about, what you want us to see in the future from us and with Dr. Ryan. And we will see you guys on the next episode.